I get an imaginary shield. The worst possible Pokemon to see with this team once the Swampert is gone. And honestly, I don't know how I'm going to end up winning this match. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, we do upload daily PvP content, so please consider subscribing to the channel if that is of interest to you. And if you're a returning subscriber like Kyle Dumovich, thank you for your support. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at a double ice team featuring Articuno in the lead, Swampert and Lapras. And obviously, like any team, this team does have its weaknesses. Something like Poliwrath, for example, could run through the whole team. For that reason, if you're planning to run it, I do recommend having Hurricane on your Articuno for that additional coverage against something like Poliwrath and even a Scavalier. Cresselia, although there's no hard counters on this team, we do have some play against it. So let's see how it goes. First battle here is against Buffalo Knight. And we are going to be leading the Articuno into the Togekiss. So obviously this is a very favorable matchup for Articuno. And I would expect the opponent to probably switch out, but it looks like they are going to stay in. So we're going to go for the Icy Wind right away. In this particular matchup, you always want to go for Icy Wind right away. You don't want to overfarm because you want to reduce that charm damage as soon as possible. And when the opponent shields like they did here, you could definitely expect the Ancient Power to be coming out. So at this point we have to shield this, of course. And because Charm actually does not generate energy so quickly, we should be able to commit to a very aggressive farm down. And because we're taking reduced damage from those Charms now, we will be able to farm down and win this lead match. So now we have enough energy for 2 Icy Winds, and we're going to throw it at whatever comes in here because we don't want to give up switch advantage. So we're just going to throw it. It happens to be an Empoleon actually, so it's not going to be doing any damage to it, but with that said, it is going to be lowering the attack, and I'm just going to let the Empoleon take me out and then bring in the Swampert, because Swampert of course is going to have a very good matchup against the Empoleon. So Articuno goes down, bring in Swampert, and here comes the Giratina. And this is pretty much the beauty of this double ice team, is that the opponent, once they get rid of the Articuno, they probably assume that their Giratina is relatively safe because most people aren't running double ice. And in this situation, we are that one lunatic that is deciding to run double ice here. So the Giratina is in a horrible spot now, and we could pretty much just commit to knocking out this Giratina here. We do get the Ice Beam off, and I'm not going to shield anything here, of course. That Empoleon in the back is still relatively healthy and could be a little bit problematic, so we are going to need this shield for the Swampert. So now we have some energy. We're just going to throw these Surfs at the Empoleon. And the thing about this particular matchup here on the opponent's side is that they're going to need a lot of energy to be able to come back here, because 1, they need to get rid of this Lapras, 2, they need to get rid of our shield, and 3, well, I don't really know what 3 is, but they have a really uphill battle. So we're going to throw Surf, and now I'm going to switch into the Swampert, even though I'm going to hit by the Hydro Cannon, because I had some energy stored on it. I could definitely survive a Hydro Cannon. I'm going to shield this first one here in case it happens to be something else like a Blizzard. So we do shield that up, throw the Hydro Cannon here, and we should be getting hit by one more charge move before we get to our own, but that will not KO the Swampert. And then after that, I should be able to get to our own Hydro Cannon, which should be enough to take this game. Actually, obviously it's going to be enough. It's going to KO the Empoleon. And here it is, Hydro Cannon. So we're going to go 1-0 here to start off. And as you can see in this particular matchup, the double ice did pay off quite well because it lined up perfectly against the team that was not made to counter that particular lineup. So match number 2 here against Arrogance. And I'm going to be leading the Articuno once again into a Giratina Alter this time. So again, you know, nothing too impressive here. We're winning leads, and very dominant leads at that. So Giratina versus Articuno, most of the time Giratina will switch out of this matchup, but obviously it depends on team build. So they throw the Dragon Claw first, totally fine with that. Actually, a little bit surprising that Dragon Breath gets to Dragon Claw before I get to Icy Wind. I know Shadow Claw for sure will, but didn't know Dragon Breath did, so that's pretty good to know. And we're going to throw the Icy Wind here. He does actually choose to shield, which caught me a little bit off guard. And at this point, I'm starting to realize that, okay, well, Articuno is a very dominant matchup, but I am going to have to commit my own shield if he's invested in protecting his Giratina like this. So we do get to the second Icy Wind. I'm going to throw it once more. And this is going to debuff the Giratina for a second time. And they actually chose to shield again. So they burnt both shields in a very unfavorable matchup. And I could definitely survive this Dragon Claw, but I don't want to take any chances, so I'm just going to shield this up and ensure that I win this lead match, because maybe they're super weak to ice or something in the back. They actually switch out into Zangoose. So it's really good that we get out this Icy Wind, but at this point I'm panicking a little bit because I'm wondering, what am I going to switch into, Swampert or Lapras? And I chose actually not to switch because I didn't know what to do, so I just let the Articuno go down and I let this Zangoose get a lot of energy, which is problematic. And I realized Lapras is going to be really weak to close combat, so I can't really bring that in. Plus, I need that Lapras for the Giratina in the back. So I decide to bring in Swampert here. And Swampert, I get an imaginary shield, which obviously is not an actual shield because I have 0. So it doesn't protect me from anything. Close combat goes through. And at this point, if this is another close combat, it's really going to hurt. It happens to be only a Night Slash, so we do survive that. And I'm actually going to bank this energy and switch into Lapras, go for the Ice Shard farm down, which thankfully we do get to before that Zangoose throws another charge move. And now let's see what the opponent's third Pokemon is. If it's Obstagoon, we're pretty much done. Happens to be a Giratina coming back in, which really caught me by surprise because Lapras obviously has a super dominant matchup against Giratina, so I'm thinking, okay, maybe they're really weak to Lapras in the back. That's why they were using their shields on the Articuno. Turns out to be a Clefable, so I'm totally fine with this. I'm gonna throw the Surf, and obviously we have no shields left. So what I want to do here is actually just bring this Lapras or this Clefable down as low as possible. If it does end up winning by knocking me out with Meteor Mash, I could farm with Swampert. I go for the Ice Beam here because it's gonna do more damage, and I was hoping that maybe this could knock out the Clefable, and then I could just farm down with Lapras, but it actually did not. So now the Clefable has to throw energy or else it's going to lose this match, and that's going to allow me to bring the Swampert back in and commit to a Mud Shot farm down, which will give me enough energy for the Earthquake to throw at this Giratina. And this Earthquake is going to knock out the Giratina, and we're going to be able to win this match. But very well played by the opponent there to make it that close considering the very unfavorable lead for them. So GG's. And the next matchup here is against Yorchi 777. And let's see what they are going to be leading with. Articuno into Escavalier. So this is a situation where Hurricane definitely performs a lot better on Articuno. However, you could still win this matchup with just Icy Wind, but it does require calling the Mega Horn versus Drill run bait. So we throw the Icy Wind right away. Obviously, when we throw it this soon, it's obvious to the opponent that we're not running Hurricane. But I think it's more important when you don't have Hurricane, instead of pretending to bait it, to just lower the attack as soon as possible. We do call the Mega Horn correctly, so that's huge for us, because that's actually going to flip this matchup a little bit. And now we're going to throw the second Icy Wind. So now even if they do hit us with the Mega Horn, it's not going to be doing anywhere near as much damage. And they actually choose to switch out into Lapras. So usually my teams, as you know, are very weak to Lapras switches. In this particular situation, not the worst options for me. I could bring Swampert, go for Earthquakes, but I think Lapras was a little bit safer of a pick here, just because it is going to be weak to the Escavalier. And Lapras itself, if they have like a Registeel in the back, Swampert's going to be really good for it. But Lapras itself against Lapras is a very long matchup, and it's going to allow us to get our switch timers reset and make any switches if we need to. Plus, it's just, you know, it's a really boring match, and it gives you time to think about what you're going to do next in this particular situation. So we're just going for Surf against Surf. It doesn't look like either of us have Skull Bash, and I believe this is actually the longest match in Ultra League, mirror match that is. So we are just surfing away, surf on surf crime. And I would expect probably a switch into the Escavalier here at some point. So I do have the switch tray ready. The Escavalier does come in. I bring back in the Articuno to take this hit. This is probably going to be another Mega Horn because he did have a lot of energy on it. It is Mega Horn, so we do survive that, as you can see. We do get to an Icy Wind, so this is good because it's going to lower the attack on this Scavalier. And then at that point, I'm going to actually bring in the Swampert because I'm going to look to farm down on this Scavalier. Now the main problem with bringing in Swampert is that Mega Horn is really going to hurt. So not the most optimal situation here because I'm going to have to be forced to burn my shield. And Mega Horn's going to come through. This is going to be doing at least 50% health after the debuff, I would assume. I know without the debuff it does like almost like 80% of Swampert's health. So maybe it still does more, like 60. But instead of committing to the very aggressive farm down here, I chose to actually throw energy because I did not want to get hit by another move. I wanted to preserve the health on my Swampert. And they happen to have a Meganium in the back. So at this point, the game is over. Lapras obviously can't do anything to Meganium. Swampert can't really do anything to Meganium. The only Pokemon that really does well against Meganium on my team is Articuno, but that's in the lead. And Meganium is very rare, so it's not something you have to worry about too often. But when you do see it, obviously, you would prefer to have the Articuno lined up with it. In this particular situation, the Articuno is long gone, so not an option for us, and we're just gonna end up losing this game. So I'm just throwing the Hydro Cannon here to save some face, make this game appear a little bit closer, but in reality it was pretty much GG's as soon as the Meganium came out. So well played to the opponent there, and we end up losing that game. 7-star, 2-2-1 is up next in match number 4. Right now we are 2-1, leading the Articuno into the Cresselia. So as I had mentioned, this team does not have any particular hard counter to Cresselia, which probably isn't the most optimal strategy considering how frequently you will run into Cresselia in the Ultra League. But with that said, Articuno actually could still win this matchup as long as there is no attack debuff coming from the Moonblast, and if you could correctly shield potential future sites. In the lead, I find that a lot of Cresselias, at least lately, every Cresselia has been running Grass Knot, so let's see if this one has Future Sight. So we do lower the attack on that Cresselia with the Icy Wind, and the Cresselia is actually going to beat us again to the Moonblast, I believe. And it looked like we lost CMP tie there actually. I can't actually recall if Articuno loses every race to the charge move in this match. I haven't ran this simulation in a while, but I guess it does. So that's good to know that Articuno loses the, looks like CMP as well to Cresselia, which I also wasn't aware of. So good information to know from this match. And at this point, I'm just actually going to let the Articuno go down because it's already been debuffed. So even if I hit another Icy Wind, it's kind of pointless. And here I'm actually going to bring in the Swampert. And you may be wondering, why am I bringing this Swampert when it's very likely this Cresselia is running Grass Knot? Well, the main reason for that is because I was hoping maybe this Hydro Cannon could KO, and I wouldn't have to worry about that. But even if it didn't, I figured this Cresselia has been double debuffed already. So I know Grass Knot already on its own does not KO Swampert, so a double debuffed Grass Knot should definitely not KO Swampert. Still does about 55% damage there, but now I could at least commit to the farm down here, have a lot of energy stored on this Swampert. And let's see what the opponent's going to bring in now. So Cresselia did quite a lot of work there, but we still have 2 shields. The opponent also has 2 shields, so we're not out of the woods yet. They bring in Swampert, and I'm really happy to see this because I have a huge energy lead. So I'm either going to get shields here, or I'm going to bring down the health a lot. Even after throwing these 2 Hydro Cannons actually, the funny part is that Swampert's still going to be at about the same health as mine was. And after I throw this Hydro Cannon here, I'm actually going to switch out into the Lapras and try to catch this Hydro Cannon. So I hit one more Mud Shot, bring in the Lapras, and hoping that we caught the Hydro Cannon here because we will be able to save a shield there. And it is a Hydro Cannon. As you can see, Hydro Cannon literally does nothing to Lapras. And I actually get to the Surf, but we CMP tied. And Swampert obviously is going to win CMP against Lapras. So this time I actually chose to shield because I assumed they had a lot of energy. It might be an Earthquake. Actually turned out to be Hydro Cannon. So a little bit unfortunate. We do throw this Surf. And the Swampert actually lets it go through. And they're going to switch out. And they bring in Togekiss. So I'm totally okay with this because Lapras has a very good match against Togekiss. And I'm going to throw this Surf. Let's see if they choose to burn the shield here. They actually do not. So at this point, because they actually didn't burn their shield, I know that if I use my own shield on whatever move this is, I will be able to outpace it in terms of the farm down with Ice Shard as opposed to Charm. So as you can see here, I could just Ice Shard down and build up a lot of energy, and now we have enough for 2 Surfs pretty much, which I could throw back to back at this Swampert and get the shield and then knock it out. But the opponent does choose to back out. So we end up taking that game. 3-1 heading into match number 5 here against Shevins. And he is going to be leading a Togekiss into Articuno. So obviously nothing too impressive in this set. We had 3 very dominant leads. And obviously Articuno against Togekiss is one of the best leads you will ever see running Articuno. So as we saw in the first match of this video, throw the Icy Wind right away. And because the Togekiss is actually staying in this match, I could expect it to burn the shield. But this time the opponent actually chooses to switch out of that matchup instead of staying in, and they bring in Cresselia. And this is a little bit of an interesting spot for us because my best counter for Cresselia is technically Articuno. So I don't necessarily want to switch out of this matchup, and I know that I still have the Lapras for that Togekiss in the back, so I could kind of stay in this matchup here and still be okay because I know I have more coverage for Togekiss. So I actually choose to shield this, anticipating a future sight. We do call that correctly, so that is really good for us. But now that I know this Cresselia is running future sight, unless this trainer is an absolute psycho, there is no way they're running Grass Knot and future sight. They have to be running Moonblast and future sight. So I bring in the Swampert, knowing that that Grass Knot threat is not there. So future sight comes through again. As you can see, it's not doing much because it's been debuffed. They bring back in the Togekiss here, and we should be able to get to 2 Hydro Cannons. Obviously, we're going to have to eat 1 Charge Move from this Togekiss because it did not throw against the Articuno. And realistically, none of Togekiss's Charge Moves are really going to hurt Swampert, so I'm most likely just going to let it hit me. We throw the Hydro Cannon here. We get the second shield, so that's amazing for us. And at this point, I'm not going to shield here. I want to save this last shield for my Lapras and see what they have in the back. It is an Aerial Ace, and we should get Charm down here, which is a little bit unfortunate. And at this point, I'm actually going to bring in the Lapras, I would imagine here. Yeah, so we bring in the Lapras, and I'm going to farm down so I can have a little bit of an energy lead for whatever comes in next. Happens to be a Melmetal. So this is literally the worst possible Pokemon to see with this team once the Swampert is gone. And honestly, I don't know how I'm going to end up winning this match. So I know this is going to be a Rock Slide because there's no point to throw Superpower because Rock Slide is super effective and it's going to do the same work without the debuff to your attack and defense. So we know they're throwing Rock Slide. So we're just going to keep going for Surf. I'm going to have to use my shield on the next charge move and hope that I could build up to 1 more Surf. Because Surf is actually doing quite a bit to Melmetal here. So I know the opponent's win condition here is to throw this Rock Slide and switch out of this match before getting hit by the Surf. So I have my switch tray ready, anticipating that. Bring in the Articuno here. And this Cresselia gets to another charge move very quickly. And it actually happens to be a future sight, which is going to knock out the Articuno. So that's pretty well played on their part. Didn't know they had that much energy, but now I have to commit to getting to 2 Surfs before throwing. So I had to count the cycle cuts there. They were at 6, so I had to throw right now. And that knocks out the Cresselia. Now we have enough energy stored for the second Surf, and that is going to be enough to knock out this Melmetal. And we are going to end up taking this game, despite that very tricky spot in the end against Melmetal. So like any team in the GBL, this team does have its weaknesses. No team is perfect. Obviously this team would struggle a little bit against Registeel in the lead. It would be very difficult to pair it up with the Swampert. Something like Poliwrath would be very difficult without Hurricane. And even Cresselia is a little bit challenging if not lined up with the Articuno. But with that said, we did go 4-1 in this set, and I did enjoy using this team. So if it's something you want to test out, I say go for it. If you guys enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like, commenting, subscribing to the channel. We're almost at 1,000 subscribers. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Take care.